Alex Keyan.
Hey,
Thanks for
Bora.
joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to chat about this stuff.
Alex, tell me about the journey of founding GoPure. What inspired you and your wife, Erin, to start the company?
Yeah, definitely. So, GoPure Beauty is a skincare brand, direct to consumer. Started in 2018, about 6 years ago. My wife Erin and myself are the co-founders. And the way it came about was we had already owned another business, which was a online retail store of many different brands, like all beauty stuff. So from nails to hair to skin to makeup, like all kinds of different things, tools. But we noticed in the skincare category, especially, people were really having to compromise between really medical grade skincare that may have toxic ingredients in it versus like super 100% organic skincare that was safe for you but didn't give people the results they were looking for. And this was always a trade off we saw, and people would kind of like say, okay, I don't want to use toxic stuff anymore. Let me switch to this. And then be like frustrated because they're not getting the results. They go back to it, but they don't love it because it's got toxic ingredients. So we decided to bridge that gap and basically create products that were effective and have active ingredients that really worked, but didn't contain all the toxic things, and also price the products in a very accessible way for where more people can reach these products. So we basically are making products that from on the market from the if you go to Sephora, if you go to Ulta, it will cost over $100, and we're selling them for under 50. So just found a way to basically have low overhead, especially at the beginning, and really put that towards giving the customer a great price. So it's that combination of like products that work, they're good for you, and they don't cost an arm and a leg that we wanted to focus on, and that's how we started. And we started with one product, and then we marketed it to our mail list from that other business, and people loved the product, and so we went from there.
Well, speaking of ingredients, your products are known for combining clean, safe ingredients with effective active ingredients. So, how do you balance those two priorities when developing new formulas?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot more challenging versus brands that just don't really care that much about it. So we have a no list of like 1,000 ingredients that the chemists know they're not allowed to use. And that's kind of it. And it's like, they have to work with what's left. We do a lot of R&D on the active ingredients, make sure they're safe. We have an awesome R&D and product development team that is very experienced, decades of experience in the developing skincare products, and so a lot of research goes into it, a lot of R&D, and so it is more challenging because you're working with less options, you're working with less ingredients, so it's more challenging to achieve the result, but we get it done.
I want to dive into that R&D portion a little bit. So, for instance, you recently launched some new exfoliating products, right? So, thinking about the product innovation perspective, how do you kind of stay on top of emerging ingredients and technologies? And, like, for instance, how did you make the decision that this company now needs exfoliating products? And how did that kind of turn into a launch from the idea phase?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's definitely these different phases, right? So the ideation phase and kind of what do we even want to work on before we even get to the active ingredients. And that comes a lot from just at this point looking at our product map and kind of seeing where are the gaps, what part of our demographic do we not really have products for that serve them well. So it starts with that. The thing I love about DTC also is you have that direct communication with the customer. So our team does a lot of like live event, live, webcasts on different platforms and communicates with our customers directly, where they're asking questions directly. And so we just paying attention to customer voice, I think, is a big part of the ideation in our private Facebook group, customer service, like all those data points. Um, and then we validate those ideas, so we look at it and we say, okay, is there demand for this product? Do we really think our customers will buy this product? Is there a way to innovate on this product, or is whatever's out there is already the best and there's no way to make it better, for example, right? And then from there we kind of narrow it down, and then we get into the R&D of, okay, this is the product we want to make. What do we want it to look like? What do we want it to feel like? What do we want it to do? What benefits do we want it to have? What is it going to smell like? I mean, you kind of cover all these things in the brief, and then our R&D and product development team goes out and says, okay, like they're constantly creating a library of active ingredients and they're constantly communicating with raw ingredient suppliers about like what's hot and trending, what's coming out, what's the most latest innovation, like just chemistry wise and technology wise, that is more effective, because you also have all these raw ingredient, like active ingredient manufacturers. They're always also innovating, and they're trying to make something that's going to work better and be less irritating and more safe. And so those relationships with them and the constant communication is super important. So then we're able to, the R&D and product development team is able to bring that vision and that ideation to life in real molecular actually terms, where you now have a real thing, whereas you had an idea before. So that's kind of like the stages to get there. And then there's a lot more to it, like packaging and all kinds of other things. But
Alex, the clean beauty space is pretty crowded, right?
Yes.
And I seem to see a lot of headlines about beauty, clean beauty, brands running into trouble, but it seems like GoPure is always thriving. So what sets GoPure apart? How does this happen? Why are you guys crushing it?
Okay. Well, we're not always thriving. We've definitely had some really, flat, tough years in general. D2C in general has gone through kind of a roller coaster, with Apple iOS changes, and then the COVID lockdowns, was like really way up on revenue, then way down, and just really up and down, like a genuinely roller coaster. So I wouldn't say we're always killing it. I think in the last 12 months, we've been doing really well. And I would just attribute that all to our team. We put a lot of effort into our culture, which to us means to us, culture is the people. So who are we bringing on the team? Very particular about our selection process and holding all the candidates to our highest standards around core values. Like, are they a fit with our team? We're very focused on our core values. And then obviously experience and skill set and things like that. But it's really been our team that has really achieved these results over the last year. Everybody's believes in the mission of what we're doing, very invested, in the success of the brand, and it's a very collaborative thing that we're building. So I mean, that's the answer to me, is like, it's our team.
Well, now I have to fast forward a little bit, since you mentioned the company culture and the team. It's an important topic. GoPure does seem to have a strong company culture. How do you foster that? And the other thing is, how do you attract such talented team members? I mean, having worked with them myself, my experience has been the team is shockingly competent. How does this happen? How do you find and build such a team? And clearly that shows in the results.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I agree. I think they're very competent. That's a very kind thing to say. Well, I would just say that for us, like I was saying earlier, it really starts from the selection process. So we find it's really very difficult to change somebody's personality, after they're on board, or try to, you really have to select the right people first. Like, that's probably 90% of it, and because then if you select the right people, then together they help, like as a team, to actually figure some of this stuff out, the rest of it, So our core values are really key for us. Our core values are, well, actually, we don't like to say them publicly, because then candidates can tailor their responses if they, we tell them after. But the core values are what we want in our team members, right? So the stuff you said you saw when you worked with our team, like that's what we look for, and without getting too specific. And so when we interview, we ask questions really around those core, like indirectly trying to see, does this person fit these core values? And so it really starts with that. That's the biggest thing. And then moving on from there, we use the EOS management system. It's called Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's basically just gives you structure. It's similar to probably what a lot of companies use to run their business, but it gives you structure to running the business, quarterly planning, annual planning, weekly KPI checks. So we have a system that kind of, in addition to bringing these people on board, like we're looking at KPIs weekly for each department. And we're just really on top of the actual execution as well through metrics and data. So, I just found that you align a bunch of driven, smart people around a central goal and you can achieve anything.
GoPure has had success as a DTC brand. You mentioned some of the challenges. How do you see traditional retail and some of the other channels in GoPure's future?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in our future. I think channel diversification is important. We do want to get there. We haven't had the bandwidth as much with our core focus always haven't been D2C. But it isn't kind of our plans for the long term. I think it's an important channel. It just takes it's a much longer kind of cycle, right? Like you get in, it takes they say it takes a year to make it really start to work. So yeah.
I'm curious about your experience scaling the business, Alex. What were some of the growing pains as you expanded? Any key lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, there's so many lessons. I don't even know where to start. Have been so many growing pains and mistakes and failures as for myself and as a team. And I mean, for us, we really look at every one of those as a learning opportunity and like, how do we use this to make us better, instead of dwelling on it too much. But, um, I mean, I don't know where to start, from marketing to supply chain. I think some of the things we've probably just the top of mind, like we have in the past invested in software that was probably too robust for us. Like for example, at one point we were using NetSuite and we were too small of a company for it. Like you need more resources internally and externally with partners to use it well. Like it's a great system, but we just weren't there yet. And so we paid a lot of money, but it wasn't super usable. It was actually more of a slowed us down. And then I think just some of these other things like about, having the right person in the right seat and having them fit the culture. The idea of like managing somebody into being somebody else it's not a thing. It doesn't actually work, It took me some time to learn that. But all kinds of things, I think, from just inventory management can be really tough, especially if you do start growing rapidly and you're not sure, is this going to last? How much risk do I take? How much inventory do I commit to here? That can be challenging, and there's not a lot of easy answers. You just have to end up making some gut calls. With our team, I mean, we project as much as we can, and we try to we build amazing models that kind of give us the best data we can have, but you're still working with very limited data, to make those decisions when it's unprecedented growth levels.
You've mentioned before that transparency is a big part of your brand ethos.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important in a beauty brand, and how does that play out in your marketing and customer communication?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just plays into our entire branding in the sense of like when I talked about accessible pricing, the industry was just kind of outdated in a sense, some people would put, let's say, this product, is based on this ingredient, right? And it's like vitamin C, but there's like just no vitamin C in there, or just barely, like 0.001% to like make the marketing claim. So there's just a lot of like lack of transparency, I would say. And so it's customers, I think in recent years are more intelligent, more educated. They want to know a lot of more details about the brand and the products. So it was just something that we saw customers really wanted, and so we wanted to give them that. And so for us, that's exemplified in the fact that, for example, we put all the percentages of our active ingredients like on the front of the packaging. So if we say that, hey, this is working because of this, we're going to tell you how much is in there, and whatever amount is always in there has been tested to show that it works at that level, at that percentage. So I think just customers expect more transparency. They like it better. They want to know they're not being kind of tricked, and it's not just marketing gimmicks. So I think it helps the customer, and it also helps us because they trust us more as a brand. And it's from the very beginning. Like it's things like when we started. I mean, there were a lot of brands that would manipulate their reviews, for example, on their website, and they wouldn't publish like the negative reviews and things like that. And we always were just like, no, we're going to be super honest with our customers. We're going to make products that are going to, have good reviews because they're good products, and we don't need to do any of this stuff, and we don't want to. So
Well, since you mentioned pricing, let's talk about the pricing strategy a little bit.
mhm.
How do you balance offering premium products with keeping them accessible to a broad audience?
um, I think, like I was saying from the beginning, we kept a much lower overhead than most other brands out there. And so that's one way. But then another way is just if you give people a great price, they'll buy more product, right? So sometimes just units, the economics of people buying more products, they save money, and it balances out. But at the end of the day, also in addition, the industry was just very outdated and like just was charging whatever they wanted, without any kind of. So there was room for that as well, of like giving the customer a better price. I
Hmm.
mean, it's the same story as a lot of D2C, Casper mattresses and all these contact lens companies. Like, there's a lot of companies that found a way to bring customers like a better product at a lower price. So that's what we are aiming to do in the skincare industry.
I want to shift the topic to marketing. Recently, in the past few months, there has been a lot of success stories on the GoPure end, especially around the TikTok shop. I'd love to hear about how did that get started?
Hmm.
How did you become so successful to a point where people are pointing to your success in the TikTok shop as a benchmark, which I've heard from other brands. Uh, let's talk about that. I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, everything goes back to our team. Like our team is the reason that all this stuff happens. And so, like in this particular case, what happened was a couple of our team members went to a meeting with TikTok, some sort of conference in LA at their headquarters. And this is a year ago. This is like last August. And they came back and they just said, hey, TikTok is really pushing this shop thing, but all the brands that we were there with didn't even have it set up, much less put effort into it. So can we try this? Can we? I said, sure, yeah, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And TikTok Shop itself has done such a great job of taking off and growing. So we ended up basically, I think, our products got discovered there very quickly and went viral very quickly. So in essence, it was the combination of the quality of our products that people loved, but also like riding the wave of TikTok Shop growing over that time. So it was an early mover advantage, basically. It's probably high level in the beginning. But then our team really said, okay, what do we do to keep this to be sustainable and not be just a viral moment that dies, right? And so they engineered like a really amazing program and system and of how to continue to maintain the buzz and create the buzz. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really our team's ability to move fast initially and then lean into things that work. And it's from there, it grew to a lot more. Like the entire company is responsible for the success and has a part to play in it. So, yeah, I mean, again, it just always comes back to team. And, for a smaller brand, being able to move fast and be nimble, I think is key.
So you said early mover advantage has helped. How do you see the TikTok shop for brands evolving in the next 6 months to a year? I've been seeing some marketing pundits saying that it's going to hit a plateau at some point. It's not going to keep working as good as it is right now. What's your observation?
I mean, my observation is so far, I've been nothing but blown away by the TikTok Shop team and what they've done in just a year. They seem to be really far ahead of all the other platforms. From what I've seen, like they're really far ahead, and that's interesting. And I think it's also they're fast and nimble. When you have companies like Google with YouTube or even Meta, those companies just move a lot slower. TikTok's kind of that upstart right now, and they're moving so fast and releasing features so quickly, and fixing bugs so quickly. So obviously, I don't know where it's going to go and what's going to happen. There's a whole issue, obviously, right now of TikTok in general on the table. But I think that if that TikTok issue is resolved, at the government level, like the high level issue, then I have a lot of confidence around it. I think they have a great team. I think like everything we've seen is just I'm constantly impressed. Um, so we'll see. Time will tell.
Hmm.
But it's been going really well, and they've cut back a lot of the subsidies that they used to give customers. Like that's how it grew initially. Is they were giving a lot of customers massive discounts that they were funding. They've cut back on that a lot, and people are still buying on there. So I think part of this is they now have so many consumers where they have their credit cards stored, and so it's so easy for those people to buy things on TikTok. I think that was probably the game plan, right? Like just get people in the system. And they're getting also a lot better about like quality control and counterfeit control, things like that. So I don't know, but I have a lot of confidence in that team. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I recently found out about a trend where people are doing searches on TikTok instead of on
Hmm.
Google.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, when I was kind of doing a little bit research for our conversation today, I noticed a bunch of GoPure related TikTok search terms ranking on Google.
Hmm.
And I was like, what's this all about? What's been happening there? So it seems like you're aware of these searches.
Yeah, I think in general, we've also learned that people are starting searches more with TikTok often than Google, and just using like learning about the subject they're trying to learn about in that short form video format versus like the Google, website listings, search listings. Um, so it makes sense. I don't have data like about how big that is or anything like that, but um, yeah, I mean, it just if people get good information from certain creators on TikTok, like it makes sense they would go to them first in some cases.
Alex, I've noticed GoPure has really embraced user generated content. How has that strategy evolved since you started the company, and is it making a big impact? Why are you putting so much of company's resources into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why even these all the social media platforms have blown up so much in the last decade or 15 years, whatever it's been, is people want to see real people talking about their experiences. So I think it just resonates with people more than highly produced, content with like paid actors. Um, and so I think that's the big reason. It just people tend to like that kind of content from what they see as people more like them versus a very, polished commercial.
Alex, for the creators who are listening and watching, as someone who's built a successful beauty brand, what's your number one tip or top tips for creators looking to collaborate with brands? And from a brand's perspective, what makes a creator stand out to you?
I think it's all about authenticity. I think when we see the creators that resonate the best with their audience or go viral with a bigger audience, it's always about authenticity, and just really not selling something just for the fact of commission or fee or influencer fee or whatever, but actually choosing products you actually love and believe in because people can really sense that. And I think that will come through more and people will buy more of that product versus if you have a higher fee but you don't fully believe in the product. I think people can read through that. So I would say it's focused on authenticity and things you really love because it'll come through in the videos and people will resonate with it more.
Let's talk about the challenges of being a husband-wife founding team. How do you balance your work and personal lives?
It's actually really tough. We did it full time like that for the first, I think, 4 years or so, maybe five, probably closer to five. Actually, at some point, Erin, my wife, did choose to kind of take a step back from the business. It was just getting so much, and we were both working such crazy hours. As a founder, you work crazy hours, and that's really hard for your kids when it's both parents. So we just kind of made the choice, and she made the choice to take a step back from it, and she's been involved more on a part-time basis, um, which has been good, I think, for our family because our kids, are getting the attention they need, and um, yeah, and I think it's just healthier. It's hard, I think, when you spend your time around a person like 24 hours, 7 days a week, and it is hard to separate that work and home. So sometimes you're like still talking work stuff at night when you're just like, I can never escape work. Is how both of us would feel at times. So it's definitely been better to have that separation, to be honest. But obviously, in the beginning, like we relied on each other, and it was extremely key for us to build the brand in the beginning. And that's the toughest, times of building a brand is the first few years. And so yeah, so it was great, and it helped us get things off the ground. But eventually, we decided to kind of reduce the amount that we work all the time together as much.
Alex, I'd love to hear about a moment when you felt like you'd really made it with GoPure. Was there a
Oh, the
particular
moment?
milestone or an achievement
No,
that stood
I
out?
mean, I don't think we're there yet. So I don't think so. We always try to treat everything as like a day one mentality. So um, I can't say there was a moment where I've had that feeling so far yet. There's definitely been a
So,
lot of good moments, but not where I'm like, oh, we've made it. Like I don't think we're there. I think we're just getting started.
so looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing indie beauty brands, and how is GoPure preparing for that?
The biggest challenge facing beauty brands, I think the biggest thing is just differentiation. Like it's a very crowded industry. It's an industry that I was saying historically has had really high margins, and so it just attracts a lot of competition for that reason. And it's really hard to stand out. I mean, even trying to choose a name for a beauty brand is like very difficult as far as the trademark process because so many things are taken. Um, and so it's really differentiation and standing out somehow, and you have to kind of find a way that you are actually different and not try to be like I think a lot of brands try to be everything to everybody, and it's like that just doesn't work as well when you're going up against a brand that's like specifically for this small niche out of that demographic, and they can communicate that they made this product just for that small segment versus trying to be everything to everybody. So I think being really specific about what is the point of differentiation and what is the customer demographic, and it doesn't have to be everybody and we do everything. It can be very specific and just being the best in that small niche versus blending in with the crowd.
Knowing what you know now, after all these years of brand building experience, if you were to start something new, or if you meet a founder who is telling you, Alex, I want to start a DTC brand, one, would you recommend them to start a beauty brand, or would you tell them no, do something else like supplements or something?
I don't know. Then my answer would be depends. Do they have a cool idea and concept that would be differentiated for beauty or for supplements? And do they have a path to getting partners that, let's say you want to do supplements, like you're going to need somebody that understands the product, what's the path to that? And do you have a passion for it? I think that at the end of the day, you have to be kind of improving people's lives somehow for them to want to buy your product, like you have to give them value. And so don't start something just to start something, like start something with the goal of actually bringing value to people and then like work from there. I think if you focus on that, you will find success because you'll find the tactical ways of getting there, right? But if you do have a product that is actually somehow better, like when I say improving people's lives, I mean, you could be just saving them money, or you could be, it's a more fun experience, or you just put a smile on their face because your product is designed a little better, or it's easier to hold in your hand. It doesn't have to be something insane. It just has to be an improvement of what's out there on the market right now that they're spending that money for. Because then they will spend that money on your product if it's even slightly better. But the more differentiated, the more unique, the more improvement you can do on what's in the general marketplace. Like that's what it's about versus, I guess, categories as much. I think supplements is also just super competitive, right? Like crazy competitive. So that's why my thing is like, what can you do better? Figure that out first, because all these categories are competing with really, really like seasoned, established players. Without differentiation, it just makes it almost impossible and very difficult.
Alex, final question. Top two headaches and top two priorities for the year.
Okay. Top two headaches, I would say supply chain, being able to keep up with the growth. That's a big one this year.
That's a nice problem.
Yeah, they say it's a good problem to have. Still, it needs a problem that needs to be solved, and we have an awesome supply chain team that has done an incredible job this year with our growth of making sure things are flowing smoothly and happening. Um, but like, there's just some challenges that we still have to overcome. That I'm confident we will, but that's I wouldn't even call it a headache. It's just more of like something that's on my mind. And then other than that, I think retail too. Like we do want to make inroads into retail. Again, not a headache, but just something that's kind of I'm thinking through like what would be the best path to get there. It's a big lift. It's a big thing, especially for a company that it's in our DNA to be a D2C company, so nobody has a lot of experience around that, but we can build that and, so.
Alex Keyan, thank you for sharing your journey with me.
Bora, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.